Live.
I'm going to turn my camera off whilst I have my tea, but then I'll put it back on again when I've finished.
Good boy.
Have your tea.
Hi.
Your bacon sandwich.
Okay, so are we online?
Are we? Yes, I think we are.
Okay.
Good boy.
I can see the...
So we should all mute ourselves, yeah?
Yeah, we do it.
Okay. Yes, I can't see. Okay, are we on Facebook now?
Renee, yes, we are online.
Oh, yes, we are. Hello. Okay. Yeah, technology is not my strength. Good. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. And we are very, very honored and excited to have with us tonight Rabbi Lisa Grushcow from Montreal, and her parents are here as well. And she will give us a Dvar Torah later during the service at some point. So we have another Canadian here with us tonight, Louisa, who is from Toronto as well, I think, now.
That's
I don't
right.
yeah, from Toronto as well. So it's a very international community tonight. So Shabbat Shalom to you all. And we are going to start our Shabbat service. Do you have, Lisa and Ricky and Mark, do you have the prayer book, the online prayer book? Or maybe we can put it in the chat section. So for those who have a prayer book with you, please open your Siddur, on page 75. Jill and Norman, so I'm going to ask people to intervene in the service. Jill and Norman, have you lit the Shabbat candles already?
No,
Okay, can I ask you to do it for us?
they're here.
Okay, brilliant, thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
okay,
Can they see us?
right. I'm going to light the candles now, and we've unmuted ourselves.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. You shall call the Sabbath a delight. These lights we kindle are a symbol of joy. May their brightness lift our spirits and fill our hearts with happiness and peace. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvot tzivanu, lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You sanctify us by your commandments and join us to kindle the Sabbath lights. Shabbat shalom to everybody.
Shabbat shalom, and thank you. Page 75. The Sabbath has descended to enfold us in its mantle of peace. It brings to us the precious gift of time to embrace family and friends, to reflect more deeply on the meaning and purpose of our lives, and to worship in the beauty of holiness. May our Sabbath always be sanctuaries of love and devotion, bringing contentment to our hearts, happiness to our homes, and blessing to our people. Page 76. Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Asharet, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachi HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Moachem leShalom, Malachi Ashalom, Malachi Elyon. Mi melech malachi hamelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bachuni leShalom, malachi hashalom, malachi elyon. Mi melech malachi hamelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. צאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. ממלך מלאכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. Let's turn to page 78 now, 78. ידיד נפש, אב הרחמן, משוך עבדיך אל רצונך. ירוץ עבדיך כמו אייל, ישתחווה אל מול הדרר, ירב לו ידידותיך מנופת צוף וכל טעם. יא לילה לילה, יא לילה לילה, יא לילה 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 לילה, יא לילה לילה, יא לילה לילה, יא לילה לילה לילה, יא רי, יא לילה לילה, יא לילה לילה, יא לילה לילה לילה, יא לי, יא לילה לילה, יא לילה לילה, יא לילה לילה לילה. יגאלנה ופרוס חביב עלי את סוכת שלומך. תאיר ארץ מכבודך, נגילה ונשמחה בך. מהר אהוב כי במועד, וכוננו כי מעולם. יא לילה לילה, יא לילה לילה, יא לילה 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 לילה, יא לילה לילה, יא לילה לילה, יא לילה 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 לילה, יא לילה לילה, יא לילה לילה, יא לילה לילה לילה, יא la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la. So let's turn now to page 86. 86. Proclaim freedom for daughter and son, and keep us, God, as the apple of your eye. Beautiful, make our name and never to cease, as we come to rest on the Sabbath day. La 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la. דרור יקרא לבנים בת, וינצורכם כמו בבת. נעים שמכם ולא יושבת, שבו ונוחו ביום שבת, שבו ונוחו ביום שבת. דרוש נביא ועולמי, ואות ישע עשה עמי. נטע שורק בתור כרמי, ששבת בני עמי, ששבת בני עמי. דרך חוכמה לנפשך, והוא חטא לראשך. נעצור מצוות קדושך, שמור שבת קודשך, שמור שבת קודשך. I really love to travel in the Jewish world and to bring all of these melodies that come from Yemen, like the one I just sang, and also from Ashkenaz and from Sepharad. I think that we have such a diversity, musical diversity and cultural diversity in the Jewish people as we see tonight, because we have our dear friends from Canada and from another part of the World Union for Progressive Judaism with us tonight, with Rabbi Lisa Grushcow. So it's a great pleasure to celebrate the fact that the Jewish people is international, and we have friends and allies all over the world. So we turn now to page 89, Psalm 92. It is good to give thanks to the Eternal One, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך העליון, ולזמר לשמך העליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך העליון, כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך ארנן. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. How great are your works, eternal God, how very deep your thoughts. The righteous shall flourish like a palm, grow taller like the cedar of Lebanon. Planted in the house of the Eternal One, they shall flourish in the courts of our God. They shall still bear fruit in old age. They shall ever be fresh and green, proclaiming that God is just, my rock, in whom there is no flaw. So before I turn to Lecha Dodi on page 91. I wanted to greet our friends who have joined us on Facebook. And, as I often say, I don't have access to the YouTube page, so I don't know who has joined on YouTube. So welcome to all of you who joined on YouTube and Twitter. So on Facebook, we have Ansmore. I don't know who Ansmore is. So Shabbat Shalom to you. Shabbat Shalom to you, Anna, Tina. Tina, I hope you're feeling better now. Huh? I hope you're getting better. Tina and Neil. Shabbat Shalom to you, Holly and Sibyl, Alexandra. Antoinette. Shabbat Shalom to you, Antoinette. It's a queen's name, Antoinette. Huh? Shabbat Shalom to Daniel. Dan, it's good to have you with us tonight. Shabbat Shalom to you, Julie. And Natalia. Natalia, you're on the call as well, so good. Jill and Norman and Joyce, you're on the call as well. Craig as well. And Dee, oh, go ahead, Dee. Shabbat Shalom. I think you had a birthday not so long ago, so happy birthday. I don't remember when it was, but I seem to remember that from my Facebook page. So before, last thing, Sandra, Julian, Norman, I will ask you to take over for the Shema, one of you, and for the Amida, one of you. So think about who wants to do what, and then let me know. Page 91. Yes, always a question which do. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, פני שבת נקבלה, שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד לשם ולתפארת, ולתהילה לך דודי, לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה, התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך, קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני, עלייך נגלה, עליך דודי, לקראת קהלה, פני שבת לקבלה, בואי ושלום, עטרת בלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמונה עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. So we are on page 92, and so who wants to go first, Jill, Norman, or Sandra? Okay, you're too shy and too polite.
I don't mind. Do you want to do Barachu though?
Do it.
I'll do the bracha. Baruch hu et Adonai ha'mavorah. Baruch Adonai ha'mavorah leolam va'ed. Praise the one to whom our praise is due. We praise the eternal one to whom our praise is due forever.
Okay, top of page 93. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach sha'irim, u'bitvuna mishane itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'msader et hakochavim, b'mishmorei teichem b'rakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzavaot shemo, Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. I'm going to read this for a change because the English is lovely. Unending love have you shown your people, the house of Israel. Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts have you taught us. When we lie down and when we rise up, we will reflect on the meaning of your laws and rejoice in the words of your Torah and in your mitzvot forever. On them we will meditate day and night, for they are our life and the length of our days. May your love never depart from us. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We praise you, O God. You love your people, Israel. Please turn over to page 94 and stand or sit as you choose for the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod, Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. V'havta et Adonai Elohecha, B'chol levavecha, u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol me'odecha. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzabacha hayom al levavecha. V'shinantam levanecha, v'tibarat abam. V'shiftecha b'veitecha, u'v'lechtecha v'aderech, u'v'shachbecha u'v'kumecha. V'kasharatom la'ot al yadecha, v'hayu l'totafot bein einecha. V'chetaftom al mezuzot beitecha, u'v'sharecha. Leman tiskaru, v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'hitem kadoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeti etchem be'eretz Mitzrayim, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. All this we hold to be true and sure. You alone, Eternal One, are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You have freed us from oppressors and delivered us from tyrants. You have led us out of Egypt forever to serve you in freedom. When we witnessed your power, we praised your name and gave thanks. Willingly, we accepted your rule. Then, full of joy, we sang together. Mei chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mei kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot oseh feleh, nora tehilot oseh feleh. Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. And it has been said, the Eternal One has delivered Jacob and redeemed us from the hand of one stronger than ourselves. We praise you, O God, Redeemer of Israel. Grant, Eternal God, that we may lie down in peace, and let us rise up to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your wise counsel, and for your name's sake be our help. Shield us from sickness and war, from famine and distress, and keep us from wrongdoing. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings. For you are our guardian and our deliverer, a gracious and merciful God. Guard our going out and our coming in, that now and always we may have peace. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu v'al kol yoshvei tevel.
And now we are going to say the Amida, which is on page 97. Adonai safata tiptak ufi yagita hilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchok, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ho'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer HaSodim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'Nehem, L'man Shemo Ba'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Mashiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gebo Le'olam Adonai, Mahaye Metim Atah Rav Lehoshea. Mashiv harua umarid hageshen. Masriya hashemesh umarid hatal.
Mahakel hayim b'chesed, Mahaye meitim b'rahamim rabim, Somer noflim b'rofei holim, Umatia asurim, Umakaye memanoto, L'shanei afar, Michamo haba'al gavurot, Umidom ela, Melech memid, Umahaye, Umasbia Yeshua.
V'ne'eman ata lahayot meitim. Baruch atah Adonai Mahaye hametim. You are holy, awesome is your name. We have no God but you. We praise you, Eternal One, the Holy God. We thank you, O God, for this Sabbath day, which calls us to a closer communion with you. Though you are near to us at all times, you reveal your presence most clearly when we direct our thoughts towards you in worship and meditation. In you, O God, our humanity is exalted. You are our life. From you come its greatness, its power, its beauty. Establish in us, we humbly pray, a devotion to you that shall be firm in all the circumstances of life. May this service renew in our hearts a sense of your presence and bring us peace.
Yesmahu ba malchutha, Yesmahu ba malchutha, Shamrei Shabbat v'korei onek, Amakache shuvi'i, Amakache shuvi'i, Kulam yisfa'u, v'yitangu v'tuvecha, v'hashvi'i, v'hashvi'i, Ratzita bo, v'kidashto, Hemdat yamim, Hemdat yamim, Oto karata zechel amase bereshit.
We're on top of page 100. Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Eternal One, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath.
Ratzei Adonai Eloheinu, Bial Macha Yisrael, Utafilatam Biahavat Katabael, Utahila Ratzon, Tamid Avodat Yisrael, Amacha Yisrael Amecha, Baruch atah Adonai, She'otacha levadecha vayira, Na'avod, Na'avod, Na'avod.
Modim anachnu lach, she'atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elahei Avotenu le'olam va'ed. Sor hayenu, v'gein yishenu, atahu l'dor. Node lachal nesaper tehillotecha, al hayenu hamsurim b'yodecha, v'al nishmotenu akudot lach, v'al nisecha, shebechol yom imanu, v'al niflotecha, v'tovatecha, shebechol eit, erev bavoker b'sochorayim. Baruch atah Adonai, atov shimcha u'lachano l'chodot.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael, Asim Leolam Ki Atahu Melech Adon Laham Shalom V'atov Benechem Levaret et Amcha Yisrael Baha et uvcha sha'a b'shlameh Baruch atah Adonai Osei HaShalom.
And we just take a minute or two for some silent prayer.
Yahi ratzon imrei fi, Yahi ratzon imrei fi, V'hegion labi lefanecha, Adonai suri v'goali. Oh, may the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. O say shalom bimramav. Uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adam. Amen.
Cher Kohar, merci. Merci. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry. I'm losing my language now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean Norman. Thank you, Sandra, for
Thank
leading
you.
us in prayer tonight.
Thank
So
you.
now it's my greatest pleasure to welcome. How do you pronounce your name, Lisa? Is it Grushkov or Grushkow?
Grushcow, you've been doing beautifully, and I answer to anything.
Okay, good. So Rabbi Lisa Grushcow is she is the senior rabbi at Temple Emmanuel Beit Shalom in Montreal. But before that, she was associate rabbi at Rodef Shalom, Congregation Rodef Shalom in New York, which made me think there's a lot of shalom in your life. So Lisa received a BA from McGill University in 1996. And then she spent 3 years at Oxford University, where she earned a master's degree in Judaism and Christianity in the Greco-Roman world, and then a doctorate. She was ordained a rabbi in 2003 at the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion in New York City. She is also a great writer. So Rabbi Grushcow is the author of Writing the Wayward Wife. She's also the editor of The Sacred Encounter, Jewish Perspectives on Sexuality. And she also contributed to the Torah, a women's commentary, and a book that we're using quite often at KLS, the Musar Torah commentary, and other publications here and there. And I also understand that you are very involved in the interfaith work. You started actually in Bendorf in Germany. And the Jewish Daily Forward nominated Rabbi Grushcow as one of the 33 America's most inspiring rabbis. So Lisa, no pressure on you, of course, tonight. But thank you so much for coming to us. And just before I give you the floor to explain a bit why we're here together tonight and tomorrow. Tomorrow I will go to Montreal, if you can believe that. The World Union for Progressive Judaism had its online conference couple of weeks ago now, I don't remember. Yeah, I think it was last week. And as part of this worldwide web of communities, they offered pulpit swaps between world union rabbis. And Lisa and I decided to work together. So tonight she's coming as our guest speaker to Kingston Liberal Synagogue in Surrey, England. And tomorrow I will come and give a shiur. So if you want, Keles, if you want to join me, it's good, but it will be in French. So if you want to refresh your French, you can, of course, join. And before I forget, I need the link for tomorrow. So just an okolomai. So over to you, Lisa.
Thank you so much. It is really a joy to be with you. Looking forward to tomorrow morning. And if any of you can't sleep tonight, our service this evening starts at 12:45 a.m. So if we have any night owls, you are more than welcome to join us. You know, in true rabbinic fashion, before I speak, I want to say a few words. It really is so moving and such an honor and a pleasure to be with you. One of the things, well, two things have struck me throughout this pandemic. I mean, many things, but the two I'll share at the moment are these. One is what a gift it is to be able to be with colleagues and learn from colleagues and friends and share one another with our communities across oceans and time zones. I mean, the good news and the bad news is we get to pack very light and we don't have any transit time. And yet here we are able to be together. But the other piece of that almost is the, not the opposite, but a different aspect of the whole thing, is that I just love how local we all stay, right? It's the same in my community. We want to see one another's faces, familiar faces, newcomers who are exploring our communities. It really is a beautiful thing to realize that if one could be anywhere in the world for Shabbat, ultimately it's really nice to be at home, even if it's mediated through these screens. And so it really does feel like a pleasure and a privilege to be in your sacred space tonight. And we're so looking forward to welcoming your rabbi en français tomorrow morning. So we are going to start off with these lines. And if you can identify them, I would encourage you to put them in the chat, all right? At least for the folks who are with us on Zoom. I'm going to share with you a book, a text, as we like to say, and it begins like this. In the light of the moon, a little egg lay on a leaf. One Sunday morning, the sun came up and pop, out of the egg came a tiny and very hungry caterpillar. He started to look for some food. Thank you. I was afraid we wouldn't have anyone. Yes, indeed, the very hungry caterpillar. Now, yes, Sarah has it and Rebecca as well. The author Eric Carle died this week at the beautiful age of 91. And I'll share with you that I have 3 children, ages 17 and 11 and almost 2. So you can believe me when I tell you that I have read Eric Carle's books aloud many, 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 many times. And when one reads children's books aloud many, many, many times, one gains an appreciation for the ones that are well written and that one doesn't mind reading quite so many times. And Eric Carle is absolutely in those ranks. But I found out something new about Eric Carle and his books this week, and I do want to share it with you. So I hope you'll humor me. And as the people from Montreal who are here tonight know, I do always eventually get to the parasha. So never fear, we won't be spending the whole evening with the very hungry caterpillar. So there is a disclaimer, sadly. And the disclaimer is that something that was circulating online as being a genuine interview with Eric Carle actually comes from an April Fool's edition of the Paris Review back in 2015, when the vaunted Paris Review of Books did a children's literature edition. And so apparently this interview is entirely made up, but there's a quote from it that I want to share with you. And I want to share it with you because despite it being a parody, I actually think that it has a lot of truth in it, and not just truth, I would venture to say, but Torah. And so, in this imaginary interview from the Paris Literary Review of 2015, April Fool's edition, Eric Carle is quoted as follows. My publisher and I fought bitterly over the stomachache scene in The Very Hungry Caterpillar. The caterpillar, if you'll recall, feasts on cake and ice cream and salami and pie and cheese and sausage and so on. After this banquet, I intended for him to proceed immediately to his metamorphosis. But my publisher insisted that he suffer an episode of nausea first, that some punishment must follow his supposed overeating. This disgusted me. It ran entirely contrary to the message of the book. The caterpillar is, after all, very hungry, as sometimes we all are. He's recognized an immense appetite within him and has indulged it, and the experience transforms him, betters him. Including the punitive stomachache ruined the effect. It compromised the book. Now, I have to tell you, I really never thought of it that way before, but now that I do, I can't stop thinking, well, why does that caterpillar have to have a stomachache after eating, if you'll forgive a visual, all of these things? And the reason why I think this is taken off, despite being a parody, and the reason why I loved it so much, is that there's something in it, I think, that recognizes the spark of childhood and of appetite and of desire, an unrestrained, transformative joy. And this is what brings us to our Torah portion, to our parsha, Beha-alotecha. Now, Beha-alotecha begins with the following line from Numbers chapter 8, verse 2. Daber el Aaron va'amarte elav, Beha-alotecha et hanerot, el mul pnei hamenorah ya'iru shivat hanerot. Speak to Aaron and say to him, when you light the lamps, the 7 lamps shall cast their light toward the face of the menorah. And so the parasha begins with this description of the menorah, of this 7-branched candelabra, which was in the ancient, first the tabernacle and then the temple, which is depicted famously on the Arch of Titus with the Roman plundering of the temple, and so on and so on. So Sivan Rechav Meir, who's an Israeli journalist and Torah commentator, writes, Aaron is commanded to light the lamps in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle. And Rashi comments that he was told to light them until the flame rises by itself. As the commentators explain, he brought the fire near to the wick until the flame burned on its own. There was no need to use force, just to let go and allow the flame to burn. We learn from Aaron, she writes, an important principle in educating our children and teaching our students. And here I would say, of course, that each of us, in a way, is always a child and is always a student. There's no need to stifle your children or your students if you want to educate them well. It's sufficient, she writes, to inspire them and to light the flame in their hearts to excite them. Stay close, but know that sometimes you need to step back and let the flame rise by itself. I love that line. Sometimes you need to step back and let the flame rise by itself. And Natalia, as I'm saying this, I'm seeing your beautiful Shabbat candles with those flames glowing. It really is quite beautiful to see. Now, why does this matter? Why is this the Torah that I'm bringing you this week of all weeks? You don't need me to tell you this, but it's not always easy to be a Jew. My parents would probably tell this story much better, but we had a rabbi at my synagogue growing up in Toronto, Rabbi Avraham Fader, who had a tradition of giving a charge to the bar mitzvah boy on the bima. And he once took this kid and held him by his shoulders, this little 13-year-old, and with sweat and saliva flying, all kinds of droplets, we would think now, all over the place, he said to him, "You think it's easy? This being a Jew?" And this, poor 13-year-old probably was wishing he could just sink into the ground. He'd done his Torah chanting, he should be done, but no. Do you think it's easy to be a Jew? And we know it's not. Not in London this week, not in Montreal this week. And whatever one might think of all that is going on so close to your home and to mine, all the more so can it not be easy in the Middle East. And we're in a moment right now that feels anxious and constrained. To use the language of the Psalms, we're in that narrow place, Hameitzar, or as my friend Rabbi Jeremy Gordon of New London Synagogue wrote last week, in the wake of the London convoy, he wrote, "Without believing we are safe, it's impossible to open our hearts to others." The response of the tortoise is wise as well as primitive. When attacked, we pull in our tentative explorations towards the other, and our only prayer is that the threat passes. And in such moments, for we know they've come before, and it's almost certain that they'll come again. In such moments, it's easy to forget the joy of being a Jew, to lose that holy spark. Now, I looked at your website, your synagogue's website, in preparation for tonight, and I loved not only your rabbi's wise writings, especially the recent ones on peace, but also the stories of the members. I really, really loved reading that. And perhaps even one of those stories was from someone who's here or who's listening tonight. And I loved those stories because they spoke to the joy of finding a synagogue, a community, a religion in which one could feel welcome and at home, finding a place where one could feel a source of meaning and growth, a place where you could find and experience and be part of that spark and let it grow into a flame. And your stories, and the stories that move me each and every day from people in my own community and stories from around the world, remind us that that flame can burn on its own, that this beautiful tradition of which we are the heirs is a spark that can illumine our lives. Now, I'm not naive, right? I know that this isn't all joy, but sometimes, as somebody far more clever than I put it, we let the oys outweigh the joys. And that's not a good thing. It seems to me we have to keep our eyes out to that. I'm smiling a little because, you know, toddlers are parrots. So my little one, sometimes when he's playing and something drops, he'll say, oi, 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 oi. And so clearly this is something that we say around here. But my hope as a parent, as a rabbi, as a human being, as a Jew, is that the joy, that spark, always finds a way to shine through. And that spark is what jumped out at me from that parody of the interview with Eric Carle. And that spark, the flame catching, is what I see in the opening verse of our parasha. I see it too in a poem with which I'll close my words tonight. And the poem is from one of my favorite poets, perhaps you've heard of her, the Yiddish author Kadia Molodowski. And this particular poem was written in Vilna in 1922. And it should be noted that here in her earliest collection of poems and throughout the decades of her long literary career, she lived in many narrow places, many mitzarim. She bore witness to much darkness. And yet here are her words, and I share them with you tonight across time zones, across an ocean, almost exactly 100 years later, reflecting that spark from our parasha. She writes, I lie on the earth, I kneel in the ring of my horizons, and stretch my hands with a prayer. To the west when the sun sets, to the east when it rises there. To each spark, that it show me the light and make my eyes bright. To each worm that glows in the darkness at night, that it shall bring its wonder before my heart and redeem the darkness that is enclosed in me. Shabbat Shalom.
Wow, Yasher Koach. Thank you, Lisa. It's wow. I'm speechless. Thank you for your wise words and this slide that can, you know, you're right. You know, it's part of who we are, and I think you captured the spirit of Kingston Liberal Synagogue very well. It's a group of people with their stories, each of them with their stories, and each story is unique and amazing. And this is why I personally feel privileged to be a rabbi here. But to be a rabbi in a Jewish community is actually meeting all these stories and all these flames. Thank you so much, Lisa. It was maybe because we're here on live on Zoom. I don't know if someone wanted to say something before we. Did you have any question? You know, you have Lisa with you now. Does anyone want to say something?
I would love if there's anything that resonated with anyone or anything that comes to mind. I'd love to.
I think
Philip. Sorry.
I just love the fact that you start with the hungry caterpillar, resonates through so many of our childhoods and so many of the childhoods of our children, I'm assuming for other people. And, so it has voices within it of people who we read it with and shared it with. And then you talked about the flames, and it's all linked. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so glad for that. I spent enough years in England to know that there's nothing worse than someone who comes from North America and assumes all the cultural references are the same. But I had a feeling that Eric Carl managed to cross that.
Absolutely, yes.
Philip, you wanted to say something?
Yes, yeah. You made me remember my grandparents and my grandparents' parents, which I never knew, in Eastern Europe, and it was just a sad memory, and to realize how incredibly privileged we are beyond any belief. Any grief we got is so trivial, it doesn't matter. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Sandra, please, yes.
Yeah, I think it was really important what you said, Lisa, about the joy. And I think that's something that we need to think about with the young people, because I think I was talking to my nephew yesterday, who's in his 20s, and he's very anxious about rising anti-Semitism. And because it seems to be more prevalent amongst younger people than amongst older people. In fact, if you look at today's Jewish Chronicle, which I don't often advertise, but they had a very good survey done of British attitudes, which is not just, a proper survey, not just who shouts loudest on social media. And it was towards the whole Middle East and anti-Semitism. And it was very different down the age groups. And definitely there's more of an issue with younger people than older people. So that means it is really even more important that we manage to get the younger people enthused about the pleasures of Judaism, what there is to learn, to experience, history, music, culture, learning, etc. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So I have a Rashi on why the caterpillar had this tummy ache. So the caterpillar, says Torah, was a Jewish caterpillar, and he ate some salami, and then he felt guilty about that. And then, of course, guilt has an impact on the body. Okay.
Not just that, Rabbi, but the salami is after the Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
I suppose it would be worse if the Swiss cheese were after the salami, but all the same.
Yeah, I think in the stomach, yeah. Right. Yeah.
Vegan.
Sorry, Phil?
Thank goodness the caterpillar wasn't vegan.
No. I think they can't actually. They need to. No. The caterpillar, they eat leaves and yeah. Right. Okay. So before we continue, before we get to the end of the service, I just wanted to say a few words about the coming events with for us. I think the great news for KLS is that tomorrow morning we have a bar mitzvah. So Oli James Medina will read from the scroll and deliver his Dvar Torah. So please come along. It will be on Zoom from 11 onwards. Sunday there is a spring walk. So I think it's too late. It's too late. But I'm sure if you ask nicely, who is in charge? I think is it you, Gillian Norman? I don't remember.
It's Neil Higgins.
Okay, so it's too late.
Well,
You'll
no,
get the
well, I don't know.
Neil's number is in the email that came out today to members. So if
okay, good. So it's
give him a
so
call.
yeah. Yeah, there's always a way. So we still have we have our Hebrew classes. We have a spirituality discussion group on Tuesday evening, and we will discuss Hillel's words. If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? And being only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? So please, it's open to all our members. Come and join the discussion. And yes, so next Shabbat, Rebecca Weddell and I will lead the service from the sanctuary. And but it is. Have I forgotten anything, Greg? I think it's. I mean, you have to read the newsletter. Right? It's as important as Torah. So please, and you just have to scroll down. It's like a Torah scroll. It's very easy and it's very, very nicely done. So I'll see you tomorrow for the bar mitzvah. Okay, right. Instead of Aleinu tonight, I'd like to read with you and then, which is on page 213, a poem written by Judy Chicago, that one of our congregants described as a manifesto of a Labour Party. But I guess this is a manifesto we could all agree on, page 213. And then all that has divided us will merge. And then compassion will be added to power. And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind. And then both men and women will be gentle. And then both women and men will be strong. And then no person will be subject to another's will. And then all will be rich and free and varied. And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many. And then all will share equally in this earth abundance. And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old. And then all will nourish the young. And then all will cherish life's creatures. And then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth. And then everywhere will be called Eden once again. So on this Shabbat, before we say Kaddish, I would like to say the names on our Yortzeit list. So on this Shabbat, we remember Phil Lewis, the stepfather of Barbara Richards, and we remember Alan Miller, the father, Jonathan Miller. Is there any other name you'd like to remember today? Please unmute yourself and just say the names. Okay, so Zichronam Livracha. Yeah, sorry, someone was.
Yeah, I did. I was going to say Cedric Briscoe, who died this week.
Oh, okay.
He was quite a well-known member of Streatham Liberal. His father was, well, he was a president at one time, and he's a very good friend of mine.
And his mother was president as well at South London.
Well, Edna. Oh, you knew Edna too, did you?
Kit was. He was a true gentleman.
And also Mel Lee Smith, and his daughter was confirmed when our son Lonnie was confirmed 30 years ago at KLS, and he passed away last week. So some older members from our era may remember.
Okay.
Danielle Lee Smith was the daughter, and he was Mel Smith, the father.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Renee, I don't know if you've seen, but Annalise Sanderson has asked for her dad, Michael Shrajman. I'm probably not pronouncing that right. So
yeah, I didn't say it. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Right. Zichronam Livracha. May the memory be a blessing. As we say together on page 524. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעלם לעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבר ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תוש בחטא ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל בני אדם ואמרו amen. Okay, let's finish with remember we had a Shavuot Erev Shabbat service online, and Rabbi Yuval it's not Yuval Karim. Yuval Keren, yes. So sung MiPL, and I really love it. So let's sing it together. It's on page MiPL. Okay, I found it. 6 now. Yes, 649. הן אדיר כאדוני והן ברוך כבן עמרם, הן גדולה כתורה והן דרשנה כישראל, מפיאל יבורך כל ישראל. הן הדור כאדוני והן ותיק כבן עמרם, הן זכה כתורה והן חכמיה כישראל, מפיאל יבורך כל ישראל. הן טהור כאדוני והן יחיד כבן עמרם, הן כבירה כתורה והן למדיה כישראל, מפיאל יבורך כל ישראל. הן מלך כאדוני והן נביא כבן אברהם, הן סגולה כתורה והן עוסקיה כישראל, מפיאל יבורך כל ישראל. הן פודה כאדוני והן צדיק כבן עמרם, הן קדושה כתורה והן רוממיה כישראל, מפיאל יבורך כל ישראל. הן קדוש כאדוני והן רבי כבן עמרם, הן שמירה כתורה והן תומכיה כישראל, מפיאל יבורך כל ישראל, מפיאל יבורך כל ישראל. מי ששיכן את שמו בבית הזה, הוא ישכין ביניכם אהבה ואחווה ושלום ורעות. May the one whose presence dwells in this virtual space cause love and harmony, peace and friendship to dwell among you. Adonai oz le'amo yiten. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Eternal God, grant strength to people. Eternal God, bless you people with peace. And let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom. So I'm inviting you to stay on the Zoom call now. We're going to do the Kiddush and have a bit of time together. So for those who joined us online, Shabbat Shalom to you, and I'll see you tomorrow at 11 for Oli James Medina's Bar Mitzvah.